Back to the line, it's going to be Cade McClenny, Nathan Harper, Joshua McCullough, drag race to the line.
At the line, Wyatt Tinsley, Cody Nagels wins, Eddie Kerner wins, John Ward wins the heat race. They jockey side by side for the win in heat number 7, and the winner is... Until they come on the final corner, trouble in the transfer spot. It's not going to be enough. Briar LaPrade wins heat number 8. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back in to the World Center of Racing, Daytona International Speedway, as we get you prepared for the final step on the road to the PGR 500. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this afternoon's VRX Simulators Duel Races. Again, the field has been whittled down now to about 84 of the original 240 drivers, 83 to be exact. They will make up a starting field tomorrow of just over 40. In the next 3 hours, we are going to find out exactly who those drivers are that race their way in to the Great American Sim Race. My name is Dawson Wise, and this afternoon I'll be joined by a pair of co-hosts. First off, though, is another man in a unique scenario. We talked about it earlier in Last Chance Qualifier number 1. It's the same here this evening. And joining me in the booth will be Austin Green, who will be on track shortly for dual race number 2 after this first one gets wrapped up. And Austin, look, now you've made your way through the first step of this gauntlet, if you will. You've kind of gotten now to a point where you're one step away from racing tomorrow afternoon and putting the microphone aside for an afternoon and actually getting to go racing in the PGR 500. So now the duels are up. They're longer races. There's strategy potentially involved. A little bit more patience required. Kind of take me through your own mindset. Take me through what these drivers should be thinking here. A longer race, kind of more thinking, more concepts involved than has been in previous races this week.
Absolutely. Well, good afternoon. First off to you, Dawson, and good afternoon to everybody watching at home. Well, the duels, I mean, it's a completely different beast, right? First of all, we're under the lights. That in of itself seems to change everything here at the World Center of Racing. But more importantly, let's talk about the format of the duels a little bit. 60 laps, you mentioned it. We're going to see a pit stop now. And if we get to that green flag stop, a lot of times that seems to separate the men from the boys in the sense of the guys who are out here and they know what they're doing, they're going to have an advantage. And then, of course, now there's no more steps. There's no more safety pins, nothing. If you do not finish top 20 in your duel here tonight, you are going home. We got a lot of big names in both of these. I think the aggression level is going to be more than what we've seen in any of the heats, either of the LCQs. I think we are going to see maybe some surprises. I think we're going to see some dominance. And I think we're going to see a lot of guys with righteousness feelings after this. And at the same time, the back half of the field, which is going to be feeling heartbroken knowing that they made it just one step shy of the Great American Sim Race.
We are getting ready to get on the grid as 42 cars, I believe, here in this first dual race will take to the track shortly. Let's get into the format of it. The top 20 cars from this race will advance into tomorrow afternoon's PGR 500, and it's going to be pretty interesting. You will notice on your scoring tower that here in Duel 1, Ethan Eckert will be in the field, and in Duel number 2, it will be Matthew Zwack, the outside pole sitter for tomorrow afternoon's race. They will both compete in these VRX duels, but it will not change the amount of drivers that gets in. So if Ethan Eckert and if Matthew Zwack are both able to finish inside the top 20 in their respective duels, they will still make the race, of course, because they qualified in, but it will not extend down another position. It will simply cut off at position number 20, no matter what, no matter where those two guys finish. And it's going to be a really interesting storyline to me in this one, Austin, because if Eckert or if Zwack get wrecked out, there could be a potential for an extra driver to make the field, whereas if those guys finish up front, if they run up front all race, there's not that opportunity available. It's going to be a really interesting storyline to watch, as I got to imagine, Eckert and Zwack, I mean, yeah, they're in the race. They have nothing to lose this afternoon. They can kind of get a rep in for tomorrow afternoon and race a little bit more loose than these guys, not have as much worry about running up front and potentially being involved in an incident.
Yeah, getting reps for sure, but also there's $100 on the line to the winner of each dual race here tonight. So I think they're going to be just about as aggressive as they might be at the end of tomorrow's feature. That's a great position to be in, Dawson. I haven't had the chance to quite have that feeling, but, you know, to know pretty much from day one, before you even start your heat race, that you are locked into the main event and that every kind of prelim race before that point is just you going for any bonuses that are on the line. So, yeah, you said it. Zwack and Eckert, they're going to be in a very good position here for these VRX duels. And I'll tell you what, we've only got about a minute left in not qualifying, but rather the warm-up. And for these first couple laps, Dawson, I mean, it's going to be a whole different beast. You look at the guys in the LCQ, they're going to be starting in the back half of the field. They'll have to start 21st on back. And, of course, the drivers that made it in via the heats are going to be up front. And I think, while it's not necessarily kind of I guess I would say a set algorithm, the idea would be that the drivers that made it through via the heats are going to be a little bit more aggressive, and they're going to be tougher to get around. So the guys that made it here through the LCQs, they're going to have a lot of work here, especially in the early half of this race, to get set up for potentially the first green flag pit stop.
Well, absolutely, and it's nice that you mentioned the guys that have, gotten in from the heats. A few of them here in this first dual race, it's kind of a unique situation, like a Cade McClenny, for example. These guys haven't touched the racetrack since Tuesday in this event, so they're now 4 days removed from their last on-track time in a race setting, and now they come into this race and kind of have to turn the aggression back on. They have to flip their brain back on. Okay, I got to get locked in. I got to get zoned in. Whereas a guy like, for example, looking back at a guy that got out of the LCQ like an Evan Carlbon or a Keaton Swain or someone like that, they just raced a few hours ago. They're already kind of in the zone. They're already locked in. That's the interesting part to me, and it will be certainly a storyline to watch as we get set to go here in dual race number 1. Let's get down trackside for the starting grid for dual race number 1. Again, 42 cars deep. 20 of them will make their way into the feature event, the PGR 500, the Great American Sim Race, tomorrow afternoon. Let's get to it. Starting grid for VRX Duel number 1, again presented by VRX Simulators, as well as Prime. I want to thank them for their support of dual race number 1. Actually, both dual races here this afternoon. On the pole for dual race number 1, as set by his pole time, will be Ethan Eckert in the 12. Again, nothing to worry about for him. He will race tomorrow afternoon, but getting an extra game time rep, if you will, in this dual race. Starting second to his outside will be the winner of heat number 1. It'll be Cabe McClenny in the 05. Row 2, another pair of heat winners. It'll be Nathan Harper in the 4 from heat number 2, and Wyatt Tinsley in the 30 from heat number 3. On row 3, it's heat number 4's winner, Cody Nagels in the 6, the defending Omega Cup Spring Bowl champion, and Dylan Jones in the 11 went second in heat number 1. Row 4, Josh McCullough in the 29 machine, and D3, Daniel Eberhardt will roll from 8th, and rounding out the top 10 in 9th and 10th, it'll be Chase Mistretta P9 and Justin May in 10th.
Bryce DeLaubin will start back in the 11th spot. Caden Dieterich, a PGR eSports former winner, will start to the outside of row number 6. Hunter Hastings and Benjamin White, one of the qualifying aces, didn't put down one of the pole times, but certainly a very experienced super speedway driver. Those two will start back in row 7. It's going to be Brandon Cattell in the 15th spot with Dude Conrad in the 8 machine to his outside in 16th. Justin Branham, he'll start in the 17th spot here tonight with Matthew Taylor back at 18th. Adam Garza rolls off from 19th in the 17 machine. And how about Joshua Watson for JBR E-Racing? He will start in 20th.
Row 11, Adam Young in the 22 and Zach Novak in the 31, a pair of the first to get out of the LCQ races. They'll start 21st and 22nd. Chris McCullough will start 23rd with Dalton Meelam in 24th. Evan Carlbon back in 25th with Julio Villalobos in 26th. Row 14 to be Landon Velicki in the 62 along with J.R. Miller in the 78. And on row 15, it's the defending Coca-Cola iRacing Series champ Parker White alongside the nightmare entry of Stephen Miles.
It's the VRX Simulators Duels, and how about one of the VRX Simulators drivers, Brian Hennings? He'll start 31st with the 75 of Nick Seipel to his outside in 32nd. One of the College Series drivers, Jason Wallet, will start back in 33rd. He'll have Tanner Sims to his outside in 34th. Ron Morse Jr. from McCullough Motorsports back in 35th with Jacob Emery in 36. Rounding out the rest of the guys in duel number 1, it's going to be Adolfo Delgado in the 37th spot, Sean Rogers 38th, Keaton Swain 39th, Thomas Bennett 40th. And it looks like that is going to be it. I don't believe Yakov Kirsanov made it in unless we had an update.
Yeah, so Yakov Kirsanov, Joey Masowicz both in. Joey Masowicz had a time conflict from duel number 2, so he will start 42nd. Kirsanov is in based on a last lap EOL penalty issued to the 19 of DJ Thomas from LCQ number 1. So Kirsanov is in, Thomas is out, Masowicz in because of a time conflict. All right, here we go. It's the dual races. It's the final step on the road to the PGR 500. The pace car dives to pit road. Here we go. Green flag is in the air. We are racing from Daytona.
Good restart out of the gate. Ethan Eckert leads them all down towards turn number 1. Kay McClenny, this is one of the guys who I feel like was kind of a pleasant surprise for many entering the heat races, got himself locked into the duels, and here he is tonight. Already going 3 wide. Further back, that's Caden Dieterich in the 24 car. Up top, rolling right now with the 19 machine. And as they work onto the super stretch, we are almost 3 abreast now. 3 rows deep from about 5th on back, but up front, still 2x2 with Ethan Eckert and Kay McClenny leading the way here at Daytona.
Onto the banking in 3, it's McClenny on the outside, it's Eckert on the inside, and again, for McClenny, for Harper, for Nagels, for these top 20, they have not touched the racetrack, several of them, since Tuesday or Wednesday when they got in by virtue of their heat race, and you can kind of tell skating around each other a little bit loosely so far, trying to take it a little bit easy, but no, the easiness stops here at the front. Up on the outside, it's Cody Nagels and Nathan Harper that go to the point. They're going to bring Chase Mistretta and Wyatt Tinsley with them. Look at Nagels. He went bottom to top, back to the bottom. Power moves for the 6, and he goes to the lead off of 2.
Still 2x2 up front. Further back, that 3 wide continues to shuffle guys all over the place. Dylan Jones has been leading the middle, but I don't think it's necessarily by decision, and almost kind of get the feeling that he's been stuck there, really just looking for somewhere to go. Adam Garza on his inside. And then Benjamin White and the Martin Truex Jr. paint scheme right now in the 19 car, trying to move his way forward, nowhere to go. He'll let Garza slip up. Back up front now, the top lane starting to get organized, single filed out, and they're going to have to figure this out soon on the bottom, Dawson, or we could see these packs start to break apart.
Big time 3 wide out back as you ride on the onboard camera for the defending Coca-Cola iRacing Series champ Parker White, as he is further back in the field by virtue of getting in on the LCQs. A couple of other onboards we want to go through throughout the course of the night. Jacob Emery carries one of them here in dual race number 1, as he got in as well by virtue of a heat race. The other one here tonight so far for duel number 1 is going to be Cade McClenny, and boy, I'll tell you what, for the guy running P7, pretty nonchalant there as he takes a hand off the steering wheel as we went to his camera, but a very interesting look there for McClenny, one of the guys to watch here in this first dual race. It's all Cody Nagels up front, and he has brought Josh McCullough to the party with him. Nathan Harper follows in tow with Mastretta, Tinsley, Eckert, and McClenny. It's the bottom side that starts to get rolling, though. It's Brandon Cattell, and he will bring now Wyatt Tinsley to the yellow line. Several good race cars in that line, along with Daniel Eberhardt further back.
And I just can't get over how much of a difference this is already from what we saw there in the 2 LCQ races. These guys have been shuffling each other, you know, from the top to the bottom and back out again as whoa. Eckert, big move up to the top. He's going to get slammed in the back bumper from Caden Dieterich. They'll all keep it together as they go 3 wide now down the super stretch. Garza's going to jump up top. That's going to leave the 05. Cade McClenny out in the middle. Daniel Eberhardt now looking to the bottom. He'll go back to the top. And they are 2 by 2. And how about Cody Nagels now going to go to the point for Nightmare Esports off of turn 4?
I mean, it is insanity from about 15th on back. It's 3 wide a lot of the way through this field. McClenny, Garza, Seipel, Miller, a couple of other cars going to jump out in that line as well. Justin May took a thought about it in the 90 car, but he will stay put right now where he is at. McClenny, Seipel lead the charge in the middle as up front. Battle for the lead. Wyatt Tinsley to the inside, the JDR Graphics Toyota Camry. He's pushed by Brandon Cattell in that purple, white, and yellow number 80 Camry on that inside line. A couple of other cars coming to the front. You talked about Benjamin White. He's up here. A couple other cars behind them. Dylan Jones is on this bottom line. Daniel Eberhardt is on this bottom line. And so is Bryce Doulaban, who's been one of the surprises of the week so far. Bryce Doulaban in this race already, up to 13th. A couple guys plus 8, plus 10, plus 12 even towards the back.
They just had a massive stack up on the inside. It went all the way back to right around Brian Hennings and Adolfo Delgado. They've actually broken off from the leaders a little bit as a result, but I think they're okay. They're still within drafting range. They'll catch back up. As for Dude Conrad and Parker White, 2 drivers that if they get together, they're going to roll, but they just haven't been able to do so yet, sitting in that middle lane further back in this lead pack. Up front, though, Cody Nagels still leads. He is on the tandem right now with the 29 of Joshua McCullough. For McCullough Motorsports, here comes Harper Mastretta with a run. Wyatt Tinsley going to jump up in front of Eckert down the super stretch.
Tinsley saw that run going away, decides to jump in front of Ethan Eckert, the pole sitter for tomorrow's Sport PGR 500. And you know the nerves for some of these guys. Maybe a Nagels, a Harper, a Ben White, a Dylan Jones are kind of through the roof. But for Eckert, you have the nerves of racing, but not the nerves of losing anything. Of course, he will still lead the field of the green no matter where he finishes in this dual race, but certainly would like to get a good performance going into Sunday afternoon. Middle line starting to work again. It's back around Dude Conrad, Parker White, Sean Rogers, Evan Carr. No trouble. One car in the outside wall. It was Villalobos Jr. on the 45. They all save it. McClenny keeps it going, and we're going to keep it straight here off of 2.
What a save by Villalobos. I mean, he looked like he was getting ready to get turned straight down into the rest of the pack.
Oh, trying to wreck trouble. Tanner Sims.
Cade McClenny off of the track. He's going to go down towards the inside safer barrier. 2 more collected up top. The 16 of Delgado's in it. And it looks like, as you said, Dalton Millam nowhere to go. He gets collected. More damage to a couple of other race cars. Tanner Sims. And it looked like they're the first car that got shot out of line. And Cade McClenny, he makes it back onto the racetrack. I'm not sure how bad the damage was. I almost wonder, though, Dawson, I don't see any damage on McClenny. Good news there, but I almost wonder if that was a byproduct of what we saw shaping up there in the middle of turn 2 with the near incident that never quite happened, if somehow that translated to what we just saw right there on the backstretch.
So the field very separated back around that Villalobos machine, and Tanner Sims comes up across the nose of the 45, so bad to worse there for Julio Villalobos, and Tanner Sims starts to go sideways, and then I think you're going to see McClenny. Oh, man, Cade McClenny tries to go to the apron and duck out of the way of a potential incident and drives right across the nose of J.R. Miller. Stephen Miles is involved. A couple of other cars are involved towards the back end of this field as well. Looks like Masowicz may have been one of them. Looks like Milam. You see him right there. Adolfo Delgado. Excuse me, there's Masowicz. We're going to try to figure out who that 69 car is that was closer to the front of this incident. But Tanner Sims, Delgado, actually Masowicz does get a little bit of a piece of it. And you see for the 20 of Jacob Emery, one of our onboard cameras, he just comes to a stop smartly there as chaos erupts on the backstretch as McClenny tried to miss it. Spinning Tanner Sims comes across the nose of J.R. Miller, and it is on from there.
And Villalobos, I mean, he got bullied around there quite a bit. That first incident was some contact between himself and the 44 machine of Matthew Taylor. And then, as you said, with that second incident kind of getting sparked up here, Villalobos and the 2 machine get together. And into the outside wall they go. McClenny tried to miss it and just barely crossed the front end of J.R. Miller. That's a tough, tough break. And he did make some significant right front contact with the inside safer barrier. But he does roll back, and we know there's no fast repairs, Dawson. He may be able to get that race car repaired, but the duels, it's just going to be so much more intense. Even if you get things repaired, trying to go from the back to the front, it's going to be a really big ask. And for Cade McClenny, who was just trying to get out of the way, he'd been running up front at the start of this. It's a really tough break and not the way that he wanted his early going. And the duel's here to go.
We'll go on board here with Jacob Emery, who comes on the scene of this crash a little bit late. We may go on board with one other driver here in just a moment. You're going to see it break out in front of him. Slams on the brakes. Here comes Sims and Milan back across, and Emery says, I'm just going to jump on the brake. Man, Joey Masowicz, talk about lucky to miss that one. He may have gotten away unscathed in the 64, although he is on pit road. But it looks to me like he avoided a much worse result in that wreck. And the 69 car I was talking about, it's actually Adam Young. It's a new paint job. We're used to the 22, and the number is reflected as 22, but it's the 69 that's aboard the side of that race car. We'll go on board with one more driver here. Let's go to Brian Hennings in the 74 again. You're going to see it break out in front of him, and he's going to get on the scene pretty quickly. But luckily for Brian, the C's part, he's able to drive right around the outside, squeeze between Villalobos and the wall, and make it out of this one unscathed. First caution flag of the night so far on lap number 9 as we come back for the blind squirrel instant replay. Lap 9 on the board. It'll be 51 to go. 50 laps to go when we go back green. And look, first incident under our belt, Austin, but I'll tell you what, 9 laps in, I mean, the racing was crazy. It was 3 wide, 10 rows deep at one point, guys making moves to the middle, and yet we got away pretty well unscathed. And even when a first incident happened, we got away from that too. You know, is that the drivers being more cautious? Is that, you know, being a little bit more controlled, knowing what's on the line, knowing the stakes now, knowing the ramifications of what's going to happen if you get involved in an incident?
It very well might be. I think the general idea here is that just everybody's already awake. They're excited. The drivers that had made it through in the heats, they've been waiting for this day. The drivers that just came off the LCQs, they're still amped up from those. And so everybody still has kind of that aggressive mentality. And at the same time, if you weren't fully awake, you certainly are now if you were anywhere near that last incident. But, you know, back up front, Nick Seipel, big opportunity right here. He's now being scored up 31 positions from where he started this race at. Now, granted, we did have a lot of drivers go in to top off on fuel. But Dawson, they still can't make it to the finish. So this may be a bit of a strategy call here for Nick Seipel, hoping that he can stay near the front for the next 10 laps. We get another caution. And then when he goes into pit, he kind of blends in with the leaders to a certain degree instead of staying trapped back there for the entirety of this run.
Yeah, it could be. It's a very interesting call, and it's one we've seen play out time and time again. And in a race like this where it's kind of hard to get track position driving from the back to the front, I'm not sure that I hate this call from Nick Seipel. I kind of like the aggressiveness. Okay, I got to get ahead of the 8 ball somehow. Even if it costs me later, sometimes you have to take a risk if you're going to get into a race like the PGR 500. And for Seipel, it's a guy that's run up front. It's a guy that's run well, I think, over the past week or so. We saw how well he ran in the last time the next-gen cars were out on the Speedway. The last couple times, really, the next-gen cars were out on the Speedway, dating back to last Monday for the PGR eSports Light Series Championship race. And Seipel, a big part in how Michael Triscaro was able to win that race and walk off with the championship. Seipel did a great number of that work. So a guy that's apt, a guy that's savvy, a guy that's ready to make the moves necessary, and now makes a call to get himself potentially into the PGR 500. We were looking on our onboard cameras there, first to Parker White, then to Jacob Emery, and finally to Cade McClenny, who's now got some of the most work to do in the field, logged back now in 33rd position with 50 laps to go. He's got to gain 13 spots to get to the 20th and final transfer position into tomorrow afternoon. Seipel, Nagels bring the field back into the restart zone for the second time tonight. 50 laps to go at Daytona. Green flag back in the air. It's a nice jump for Seipel, who inherits the lead. He'll get to the line, I imagine immediately drop up. No, he will not. He will stay down, and now Nagel's going to go up and bring Nick Seipel with him. Again, Seipel waits patiently, very controlled, very calm. Nagel's, though, going to go to the bottom and challenge him here in one.
And I was wondering if that was going to happen. Seipel, phenomenal pusher. Last time we saw him in these next-gen cars leading, looked just a little bit uncomfortable getting pushed by a lot of the regulars. So here tonight, Seipel going to try to prove something. Nagel's going to the bottom. And look at that. Joshua McCullough, man, that's a tough break. He got left out to dry, and he's going to have to wait till he gets some help. Now the bottom's going to get stacked up from that. Watch out. Joshua Watson able to finally get that car under control as the line starts to equal out. And maybe more contact. That may have been Carlbon getting into the wall. This is chaos, Dawson. And we're just now back up to full speed after the restart.
Yeah, guys finding their spots in line. Look at Diedrich and Parker White in the middle of the racetrack. The 24 and the 53 have gotten linked up, and they are coming to the front and doing it in a hurry. Almost some contact there with Josh McCullough, though. Off the push from Parker White. Diedrich almost unable to keep that car underneath him. Oh, man, look at that middle. It's really rolling now. Diedrich and Parker White towards the front. White is plus 19 on the night so far, but it's the biggest mover of the race. Nick Seipel plus 27. Cattell, though, plus 14. He goes to the point for the first time tonight. Look at the bottom, starting to get sorted out. It's Daniel Eberhardt and Ben White, the pair of Bass Pro Shops cars on the inside.
Did you see Caden Dieterich right there? Looked like Eberhardt was maybe thinking about taking the run off of the front nose of the 24, but Dieterich was having none of it. He continues to just plow his way right through the field. He's going all the way to the front in the process, and now he'll finally go to the bottom. Nagel's making a decision, middle or bottom. He'll stick with the middle and pick up a push here from Parker White out of the tri-oval. And all that pushing and shoving on the bottom in the middle, Dawson, has not resulted in much progress, at least not yet. As up top, Brandon Cattell, one of the favorites from last year and this year, trying to see if he can maybe find his way into the PGR 500 here today, and then potentially see if he can grab that $2,000 grand prize tomorrow. The 20 of Wyatt Tinsley, he has not grabbed a PGR win yet, but he pushed Caden Dieterich to one before.